Hey nerds! I'm showing my kids' teachers how to adapt assignments for dyspraxic students using his real homework. So this assignment on the Bill of Rights starts out great. I'm going to tell you everything that's going really, really well here. First of all, we've got colored visual cues to help the student navigate the assignment. So up here at the very top, the word task is in red. That's a clear indication that this is an instruction, followed by instructions to fill out the blank spaces with the questions about the Bill of Rights, and then put an image here that represents what it does and that a few have already been done for them. There's different colors in the headings to help the student navigate. You can see red here for amendment, description of protections, your own words in blue, and images. What's great about this is it makes it really clear that you can answer in your own words. You can put the description here by cutting and pasting. It's really easy to see that you can just put a little list. And then images are a great way of letting a student analyze and give information without having to use all that extra working memory to remember spelling, composing sentences. So this gives them a little break while also allowing them to demonstrate knowledge. It's also teaching them a great research skill in addition. This gives you a really good full picture of their understanding of each amendment. Now, that continues. This is an entirely appropriate assignment. We're going to get down here to the very, very bottom where you can see they've got just a few questions. Okay, I moved them up so they're easier to see. You've got looking back at amendments 1 through 8, which of these rights would you not live without? Explain. And then, if required, would you be willing to give one of these up? Explain. So as I've discussed with other assignments, after you've given a student an assignment that requires this much working memory, moving back and forth between the assignment and other open windows, books, or tabs, copying, having to synthesize and explain, and then going back and forth and putting pictures in, that's a lot of really complex processes. I would end the assignment with the table. Then as a second assignment, I would give them these questions, but have them come in the next day and answer them orally. Because, as we keep saying, the mantra is dyspraxic students have trouble with working and short-term memory, but have excellent long-term memory. They often can't tell you what happened today, but they can give you the exact details of something that happened 4 years ago. So you need to give them time for these facts to go into their longer-term memory so that they can actually demonstrate what they know, how they understand them, and use their memory to analyze them. So that next day, you pull them aside really quick, you have them stay after, you have them record a video, whatever it is that works for you, and you have them answer this. You can even just say straight to them, hey, so you've got the sheet in front of you, you've got the assignment in front of you. If you had to, which one of these would you give up? And again, which one of these do you think is most important and you absolutely would never give up? It's that simple. This is also why I have to keep telling people that merely shortening assignments isn't getting to the root of what dyspraxia accommodations are. The shortest assignment in the world that overtax working memory is still not going to be an appropriate dyspraxia accommodation. When you shift from focusing on the idea of merely shortening assignments and instead focus on the idea of minimizing working memory load, suddenly it gets a lot easier because you can look at this and say, great, I've got those clear and consistent with other instructions visual color cues. I've ensured that they can copy some of this and they only have to put this in their own words. They can even do that in bullet points, and then they're finding pictures, which does not strain working memory as much. You do that for the whole thing? This is a great assignment, but that doesn't mean that you can't also evaluate them on their analytical skills. You just have to do it in a way that is appropriate for dyspraxic students' working memory load and short-term memory deficits. So the appropriate accommodation here isn't shortening the assignment. It's breaking the assignment into 2 chunks and doing the second assignment orally after giving the student enough time for this information to move from their short-term memory into their long-term memory. You would also allow them to have this paper in front of them so that they have visual cues and their own work that reactivates knowledge. Because having something that reactivates knowledge makes it easier for dyspraxic students to recall information. Because remember, dyspraxia is not the inability to do something. It is the inconsistent ability for the brain and neurological system to execute and recall what it already knows how to do. And that applies to its ability to process information just as much as it applies to its ability to analyze and answer questions. I mean, I cannot stress enough that this is a really, really good and appropriate assignment structure for a dyspraxic student. The only other thing I would stop and consider is how much information you have loaded on them before starting the assignment. Because if they've just sat through a really long lecture or a lot of instructions, or if this is happening right at the beginning of class, they may need more time for their brain to reset or engage with the material. And if you notice a dyspraxic student isn't moving along with an assignment like this, that generally is really appropriate for them. Really the only other thing I would change is putting it into a dyspraxic font, a dyslexia-friendly font. But if they're not engaging, what you would do is you would come over, you would check with them, you'd say, hey, how are you doing with the assignment? Because remember, dyspraxic students are most likely, if you ask them if they need help, they are most likely to say no. Because by the time they get to high school, they have spent at least 10 years in school being told that they weren't paying attention, that they're not doing enough, that they don't know what to do, and really being shamed for needing help. The last thing they want is to be singled out in that way. So those words are even, they're just going to activate that. No, I'm fine. Especially for kids who tend to have really, really high IQs or very large vocabularies, because that's how they got through elementary school, was by using their very, very quick brains and their vocabularies to kind of compensate for their processing delays. So you're not going to ask them if they need help. You're going to look at if they're starting and getting through the work or not. And you're going to ask them how they're doing. They might just answer fine. But you can see if they're not getting through the work, they're not fine. So then an appropriate intervention at that point wouldn't be to tell them to get on task, move on, keep working, because that's not going to make their working memory engage or be able to initiate a task. And task initiation is one of the things dyspraxic students struggle with the most. Instead, you're going to look at whichever one they haven't done and say, okay, let's start here. Why don't you pull up this amendment? They're going to pull it up. And then you're going to say, okay, so you're going to read it. Then in this box, you can just copy, those parts of it. But then here, put it in your own words. You can just put a few words that explain what this amendment's about. And then go find an image and put it right there. So now you have reinforced the written instructions in a verbal way, while also getting them to do the first step. For most dyspraxic students, that's enough to help their brain through that task initiation block. And it takes only maybe 20 seconds longer than it takes to tell them to get back to work. No, come on, do your work. Get back to it. Stop goofing around. Stop listening, stop looking at other stuff, and get back to work. It only takes a little bit longer than that. The difference being that this actually works. Hit up my playlist for more examples of how to adapt these assignments. Thank you.